Hello friends, in arguably one of the biggest games of the weekend, Tottenham Hotspur take on Manchester City. They were beaten 4-2 away from home, but now Tottenham are going to be looking for revenge. Join me as we preview that game and discuss what might happen. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well so that you don't miss an upload. But now let's preview Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester City. Here we have the two teams. Obviously, as you can see, Tottenham are on the left-hand side, Man City are on the right. As team selection goes, there's not going to be too much difference for Tottenham Hotspur. I do think that they're going to stick with their main 11. Bentancur and Højbjerg in the middle is going to be absolutely essential, particularly Bentancur, with the way he can pick up his head and start to find a pass. He can try to find the likes of Heung-min Son, try to find Kane, and I don't think that Højbjerg has that occasionally. Yes, he can pass backwards, yes, he keeps possession quite well, but I don't think he actually has the penetration to be able to find one of the attacking outlets to allow them to go forwards. One of the main changes in the side is Porro out on this right-hand side. I think he's going to come in for Emerson Royal, even though he hasn't had too much game time. I think just his pace and his ability to go forwards, his physicality is extremely useful, especially when you're chasing the likes of Jack Grealish up and down the pitch continuously. And I just think he's a far better outlet. Defensively, there are some questions there and there are some issues. Will he leave Romero exposed? Will Romero have to come out and start to commit certain challenges? Will that leave him exposed in terms of getting a yellow card and possibly anything further? We're not so sure. We haven't seen Porro play yet, so it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes later on down the line. But I would put him in for this match. His physicality is just something that I don't think you can really pass up on. And the money that they spent on him, I would include him from the get-go. Yeah, I think you can really carry one extra player who doesn't really know the style or system, especially if they have certain qualities, and Porro definitely has one of the main qualities in his attributes to be able to get up and down the pitch. Seems extremely useful in my opinion. As for Man City, well, they have made a couple of changes. We have Edison, obviously, Akanji and Laporte, which could change. It could fluctuate to Diaz and Akanji, Diaz and Laporte, possibly. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. I've still kept Rico Lewis in here, and that's because of a couple of reasons. I do think that Kyle Walker is being saved for particularly Champions League matches. I don't think that Pep Guardiola wants to risk him. I don't think he wants to risk him getting any kind of a knock or any kind of an injury. I kind of believe what Pep Guardiola says in the sense that he doesn't really care about the league in this instance. I think he believes that the league is almost too far, and if they do catch Arsenal, that's great, but if they don't, it's fine. It's the Champions League they're really focused on, and that's what they brought in Erling Haaland to do anyway. So I do believe that Kyle Walker is being saved, which means I think Rico Lewis is going to come in. He's put in some very, very good performances, and he has a different role to Kyle Walker, and he gives Man City almost a little bit extra control. We're going to get into that a little bit later. We've got Nathan Ake out on this left-hand side. Obviously, Joao Cancelo has a left to go to Bayern Munich. His lack of game time was something that was really frustrating him, so he's left. Ake comes into this left-back spot, and actually, I think with the way that Man City play, that's absolutely fine. He is a little bit suspect on this left-hand side, especially with Grealish not really tracking back and helping him. Gundogan is going to need to do a lot of work, especially if Kulusevski is going to have some kind of a profitable day. But Laporte is going to be able to shuffle across as well. And just going forwards, I think this is the best way they can really go for it. With Sergio Gomez, it's going to be a bit of an issue because I don't think he's really up to speed with the way that City like to play. That would be the only other change I would have made to this back line. Kevin De Bruyne comes in front of Gundogan and Rodri, who maintain their positions. I've got De Bruyne in here because I just think that the spaces that open up due to City really pushing Tottenham back and the way they're going to dominate and control the game is something that they need. De Bruyne is also the only other player that really finds Haaland, and I do think that is a crucial point. The link-up that these two players have is something that should not be underestimated. The way they play and the way that De Bruyne finds Haaland in certain scenarios, his crossing ability is pretty much perfect. And when you think about the way Haaland feeds off the likes of crosses and little passes through the lines, De Bruyne is the main one who plays those passes, so I think it's crucial to get these two back on the same wavelength. Up on this right-hand side, we have Riyad Mahrez, who had a very good game against Tottenham in their last game where they won 4-2. He was a little bit defensively abject, but going forwards, he really made up for it in the second half, so that was absolutely fine. How this game will play out? Well, I do think that Tottenham, being at home, are going to try to go for it, especially in the first part of the first half. I do think they're going to try and show some energy, show some pressure, and that might cause turnovers higher up the pitch than Man City would expect. You can see Kulusevski driving at Laporte. You can see Son, with his newfound confidence after his goals in the FA Cup, possibly driving through this area between Rico Lewis and Akanji. And you can also see the idea that Kulusevski might get between Laporte and Ake. This will allow Harry Kane to really drift into the box and allow him to really get towards goal. The problem with this is the way that Man City play, and I don't think that Tottenham are necessarily set up to be able to cope with the pressure that Man City will actually put on them, especially in the first half, being the first half tends to be the worst performing Tottenham side. They don't perform well in the first half, and they tend to really drop off and concede a couple of goals actually. So what I can actually see happening is after the first 15-20 minutes, and Man City, if they start to ramp the gears up, I can see Tottenham starting to retreat. I think the centre-backs are going to drop pretty quick, and that will be followed by the two central midfielders. The wing-backs will do their best to really start to engage the wingers from Man City. That being said, I do think they're going to leave themselves isolated more often than not. You're going to see these channels open up quite a bit as well, the ones between the two fullbacks. And as I said, Romero being left isolated by Porro, is that going to be an issue? I think it might be if they decide to really go for it. If there is a lack of communication in when this team is meant to drop and when this team is meant to start becoming a little bit more defensive, I do see that area and both areas on either side, either flank, being quite isolated. And specifically Romero, you do have some kind of worry. He is quite rash and he does pick up the odd yellow card, and in a game like this, early on against Jack Grealish, who really does pick up fouls, I do think that's going to be something that's going to be extremely dangerous. But Tottenham are going to move back and they're going to drop a little bit deeper, so what's that going to mean? Well, Porro, Højbjerg, Bentancur and Perisic are all going to drop. Kane is going to drop a little bit further. I think Son and Kulusevski, specifically these two, are going to be ones that are going to look to cheat, the ones that are going to look to just hold their position as far up as they possibly can by the halfway line, so that if Tottenham ever do get a recovery, they're able to go and they're able to be on it. And it's all about the pace on the break for Tottenham to recover the possession of the ball when they get the chance, and then play that pass either over the top or through the lines. This is why Bentancur is so absolutely crucial. He can play those passes. Harry Kane can as well, but he can find Harry Kane, or he can attempt to go for the pass himself. It's absolutely crucial that Bentancur is in the side. They don't have it. They start to turtle a little bit too much, and it becomes a little bit too much for Tottenham. As for Man City, how do they go forwards? Well, as we know, Man City really like to dominate the ball. Mahrez will go forwards. Haaland will move his way into the box. Those are the two simple aspects. But then what Man City do following that is nothing simple. There is nothing simple about it at all. De Bruyne will end up moving forwards, as will Rodri, Gundogan and Grealish. But it's what happens to the back line that is extremely interesting. When this happens, and when City really have dominance of the ball, Gundogan almost gets released and gets allowed to move forwards. This allows Rodri to then move across and take up almost a central defensive midfield position. He moves across and is almost shuttling across from left and right, making sure that he's able to cover both sides of the pitch to make himself open to every single avenue of pass. Rico Lewis is then going to be the interesting thing. Remember, I said that he's going to have a bit more of a pivotal role than Kyle Walker. I think he's going to move into the central midfield position, and being so young and being so essentially sponge absorbent, I think he's able to understand Pep Guardiola's messaging a little bit better than Kyle Walker. That's nothing against Kyle Walker. I just think that you're able to mould a younger player than you are an older one. I think that Kyle Walker has his defensive capabilities and his offensive capabilities pretty set. You can tell him to do certain things, but it might not be as comfortable as if you're telling a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old. So Rico Lewis comes into this and he almost gives an extra midfield option to Man City. This will allow Gundogan to really go forwards and start pressurising from this side, allowing Grealish to be isolated one-on-one with Pedro Porro, or Kulusevski. Ake can also be there, who will be in this centre-back trio that will be made by Man City going forwards. Again, these three centre-backs are crucial for dealing anything with in the air. Ake is pretty quick going back, so is Akanji, and Laporte is able to shuffle across whenever he needs to. So defensively, Man City are pretty fine. But going forwards, how are they going to really stop the Tottenham press? How are they going to really break them down? Well, Rico Lewis being here is a pivotal thing, because it allows Kevin De Bruyne almost to drift into this right-hand channel. And it's these two channels that I'm going to highlight for you right here that I think are going to be absolutely essential. The one where Gundogan is and the one where De Bruyne will be. He's going to move into this central position, or this position on this right-hand side, and I think this is where the key areas are. Morris will be isolating Perisic, and at the same time, Grealish will be isolating Porro. Kulusevski, as we've spoken about before, Kulusevski and Son are going to be wanting to cheat out on this right-hand side, or this left-hand side, and that's going to give just enough space for the likes of De Bruyne to be able to whip in those crosses to Erling Haaland. The same can go for Gundogan on this left-hand side, although I don't think it will be a lofted air cross. I think it will be more along the floor, and then you're going to start to see deep-lying runs once you get extreme possession. Once Spurs drop very, very deep, and it's almost this throttling nature, they will start to really crank it up against Spurs, and it'll become very, very difficult to deal with. Eventually, I do think there'll be the call that Son should drop back and Kulusevski should drop back to really help. Kulusevski will drop back a little bit earlier than Son, I believe. I think he'll come in and help the likes of Højbjerg and Kane if they ever really need it, but I do see Son cheating quite a lot. And I can see that being the real outball, especially against the likes of Akanji. Perhaps Kulusevski and Son switch wings, and I think that might give them a little bit more of an avenue. But especially with Lewis coming into midfield, if he's out of position, he's not exactly going to be working as a right back, which is going to be very difficult for them. Son is going to try and make those cheating runs out onto this left-hand side. But that all being said, I do see Man City winning this game. I just see the way that they're going to throttle the game, the way they're going to control the game, just squeeze the life out of Tottenham as the game goes on. You can see those main positions that I've highlighted, Gundogan and De Bruyne, are really going to start to make a difference. And if that ever doesn't happen, you can also bring on Bernardo Silva for Gundogan, or you can bring on the likes of Julian Alvarez for De Bruyne to be that little bit more direct. It's going to be a cracking game. It's going to be a very interesting game. Two contrasting styles. Tottenham have won this game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium the last 3 occasions. Man City have actually failed to score in those occasions. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see how this game plays out. Who will win? Who do you think will win? Let me know. That's it for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave the video with a like and subscribe if you haven't, for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. You don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you have winning? Are you a Tottenham fan? How do you see this game going? Do you really think you can hold up against the pressure of Man City? And Man City, how are you feeling? You've just lost Joao Cancelo, arguably one of the best wing-backs / full-backs in the world. How do you feel about losing him? Do you think it's going to impact you going into the game? Let me know your thoughts and how you think the game is going to play out. But like I said, that's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.